In this video, I'm going to give you a very detailed example of how to properly communicate between fragments and activities. Here's a demo of what we'll be building. When the app launches, you'll see this screen. The first thing I want you to notice is the toolbar. The toolbar is displaying the name of the fragment that we're displaying. This fragment class is called selectorFragment.java, so at the top we have Fragment Selector. Next is a spot to enter a message. The message typed into this box will be sent to the fragment that we select below. We have Fragment A, Fragment B, and Fragment C. I'll enter Hello from Fragment Selector. Now click Fragment A. That takes us to a new fragment, a fragment class called aFragment. Notice the name in the toolbar has changed to represent the fragment that we're at, and the message is being displayed down here. Let's try a new message and a new fragment. I'll just write hello this time. Now click on Fragment B. We're now at a completely new fragment we haven't visited before. The name is being displayed in the toolbar and the message is being displayed in the middle. I'll be following all the Android best practices outlined from the Android documentation at developer.android.com. More specifically, I'll be focusing on the training they outline at developer.android.com/training/basics/fragments/communication. By the end of the video, you'll have a great understanding of how to inflate fragments, how to add widgets to fragments, how to send data to fragments from an activity. This is known as activity to fragment communication. How to send data to a fragment from another fragment. This is known as fragment to fragment communication. And how to build a custom interface to facilitate fragment communication. That's what we're going to be building in this tutorial. If you finish the video and you want to take your Android skills to the next level, I suggest watching my course on Pluralsight.com called Implementing Effective Navigation. In the course, I'll show you how to implement a bottom navigation bar using fragments, use a navigation drawer, also with fragments, build a custom backstack for proper back navigation, build a chat feed where you can chat with users privately, how to set up tabs, how to select a profile image from the phone's memory or take a new one using the camera, and how to use a custom like button. Pluralsight.com has thousands of courses available to its members for an incredibly reasonable price of $29 a month. If you want to try Pluralsight for free, there's a link in the description of this video that will give you 10 days free. Alright, that's enough talking. Let's start writing some code. Alright, we're going to start from the absolute ground up building this thing, and so we'll just start by creating a new project. So we'll call it Fragment to Fragment Communication. It's a long name, but at least then you know exactly what it's talking about. Then just go next, and empty activity is what we want, and main activity is fine, and let's let Android Studio build your project. Now to kind of speed things up a little bit, I'm going to copy and paste a bit of code. If we take a look at the demo app, I'm just going to copy paste the kind of styling for these buttons, and then some string resources, and one of the layout files, just to kind of speed things along so that I don't have to write it all out. I've provided a gist, so there'll be a gist in the link of this video. If you go to, you'll see it down below, but I have it in a notepad file. This link right here is going to be, it'll take you to a gist where you can get all the code updates that I'm about to paste in. So look in the link of the description, and you'll see something like link to source code or starting point gist. I don't know what I'm going to call it at this point, but it'll be in there. And so you just paste that into a browser window, so I'm just going to paste it in there, and it'll take you to this page right here where you can see what kind of code or what code I want you to grab. So the first is going to be this blue Onclick gray right here, so I'm just going to copy that, and that's going to be the styling for these buttons. So now go back to Android Studio and go into the drawable file, go to new drawable resource, and just call it blue Onclick gray. And now go to the text tab and just paste in what I copied from that gist. And this is going to give you some red right now. It'll say that it can't find these colors, which is true because we don't have those colors in our colors XML file yet. So once again, we're going to go to the gist and we're going to get the colors. So next you can see colors.xml. I'm just going to copy all this, go into our colors.xml, and I'm just going to paste that in. Let's go back to the gist. Next is Fragment Selector. This is going to be, this is actually this fragment right here that it's inflating. I want to build this layout ahead of time because it's larger compared to the other ones, and it's just going to take too long. So I'm just going to copy all this and go back to Android Studio, right click on layout, go to new layout resource file, and it's going to be called Fragment Selector. And that'll go to the text tab, and we're just going to paste all that in. And so there we have our fragment. Some of this is red because we don't have these strings yet, so let's get those now. Let's go back to our gist and get strings.xml right here. This is just going to be the names of the fragments. So we're going to have fragment A, fragment B, fragment C, fragment selector, and then this is an intent key for sending data. So I'm just going to copy all this, go to strings, and paste that in. So now if we go back to fragment selector, you can see that the red all goes away, and our layout is starting to look good. So we got one last thing we need to copy paste in. Actually, we don't even need to copy paste this in. This is styles. The only difference here is that it says no action bar. So just go back to Android Studio, open that up, go to styles.xml, and then just change this dark action bar to no action bar, or whatever you have here, just change it to no action bar. And that's all the code changes I want to get started. That's going to save us a lot of time, mainly because so I don't have to build this layout. That's going to save time. Alright, so let's close everything and get started. Okay, so the first kind of step we need to take is making sure that your build.gradle file is going to match my build.gradle file, and also getting any necessary dependencies that we need. So let's open build.gradle here, the app version, and first of all I want to change the compile SDK version to 27, the targeted SDK version to 27, and now I'm going to change this to the most recent version, which is 27.1.0. So that's all good. Let's sync that. And we need to get one other dependency because we're going to be using toolbars. This is a toolbar, and in order to use toolbars, you need the design support library to do so. So let's just write a little heading here saying design library for using toolbars. And so now write compile, and it's com.android.support design, and we want to match the exact same version as this, so we're going to get that there. That's all we need to do. Now we can sync this. Now you should have absolutely everything you need to get started. So we can close the build.gradle file, and so the first thing we need to do is inflate this first fragment, because right now all we have is we have main activity, but we need to inflate a fragment, and this fragment is going to be called selector fragment. Oh, we got visor is going to play an ad. So go into activity main, and we need to add a container to actually hold the fragment first of all. So change this to a coordinator layout because we're going to be also using toolbars, and to use a toolbar you need a coordinator layout. So as I just said, we need two things in this layout. We're going to need a toolbar, and then we need a container for our fragment, our selector fragment. So let's add a linear layout and do match parent and match parent to occupy the entire view, and then set an orientation of vertical, because we're only going to have two components in here. Let's add the container for the fragment first. So we'll add a frame layout, and that's just going to be match parent and match parent. And because we have a vertical orientation here, it's going to be below our toolbar, because I'm going to put the toolbar right here. So we don't have to worry about setting it below or anything like that. Now give it an ID of main container, and that's it. That's going to be the container for our fragment. And here we can add the toolbar. So go toolbar, and we'll do match parent for the width, and do question mark attr slash action bar size for the height. That'll give it the standard height for Android, standard action bar height, and give it a background color of color primary, and we can give it an ID of toolbar. Now inside the toolbar, if we take a look at our demo, we have the title of the fragment that's currently being displayed. So we're going to need a text view for that. So let's add a text view. So go text view, wrap content, and match parent because we want to occupy the entire toolbar. And we'll do some gravity, do center vertical, set a text size, text size of 16 SP should be good. And then set a text color of white. And let's give it an ID of toolbar title. Cool, so that's it. Let's take a look at the preview. Obviously there's nothing going to be there because there's no real content, but we have our text view for displaying the title of the fragment, and then we have our container that occupies the remaining amount of the layout. So that's good. Let's go into, we'll create the new fragment class first. So right click on the main package directory, go to new Java class, and this is going to be our selector fragment. And we want to extend the fragment class. Make sure you grab the android.support.v4 version, not the android.app version. This version is backwards compatible to be compatible with more versions. So that's generally the version you're going to want to use almost always. Let's give it a little bit more space here. We need to insert our onCreateView method. If you don't know what I just did there, I pressed Control O and start typing onCreateView. And there's our onCreateView class for our fragment, or sorry, method. Now we need to get the view. So get the view equals inflator.inflate. We want to inflate our fragment selector, pass the container, and false. And then we want to return that view. Okay, so that will inflate our. This is all we need to actually inflate the fragment. So now go back to main activity and let's inflate it. Now we're going to be doing a lot of fragment transactions in this video. As you know, there's going to be quite a few fragments. There's going to be fragment A, B, C, and then also selector fragment. So I'm just going to create a general method for doing fragment transactions that's going to save us some code. So write private void do fragment transaction, and it will take the fragment that you want to send it to. I'm actually going to close this to give us some more room. Import. Make sure to import the v4 version for the fragment library, and we're going to pass the tag of the fragment, and then we need a boolean for add to backstack, which will tell it whether to add the new fragment to the backstack or to not, and then message, which is going to be, because we are going to be sending some messages to the new fragment, so we need that parameter. Okay, so we'll start off kind of generally, I guess. We're going to create a fragment transaction object equals get support. Make sure to use get support fragment manager, not get fragment manager, because this is for the standard fragment library. This is for the support fragment library, so make sure to get that. And then begin transaction. And now we need to just do transaction.replace, and we want to replace our container, or what's currently in our container, which is main container, as you remember from right here. This is our fragment container, so we're referencing that right here, and then we're going to pass the new fragment and then the tag. If add to backstack is true, if we want to add to the backstack, then just do transaction.add to backstack and pass the tag, and then we want to do transaction.commit, and that will inflate the new fragment. So that's great. Now we're going to make an init method that's unique to main activity. So do private void init, and this is going to inflate our selector fragment. So selector fragment equals new selector fragment, and then just do fragment transaction, pass the fragment, get the tag for that particular fragment, which is the fragment selector. We don't want to add this one to the backstack, and we're not going to pass it a message. And this is angry because I didn't close that bracket, and I have an extra one there. Okay, so why am I using this add to backstack boolean? Because when the application starts, we want to inflate selector fragment, but we don't want to add to the backstack, because if we add to the backstack, if I press the back button, the app won't close. But we want the app to close, so that's why I'm not adding it to the backstack. For these fragments though, we are going to be adding them to the backstack. So when I navigate to fragment A, it's getting added to the backstack, and you can tell because when I click back, it navigates back to the selector fragment. So that's why we're using this boolean right here. Okay, now we're going to call init, and that's good. So now when main activity starts, it's going to inflate our selector fragment, and everything should be good. So let's run that and just test it right here. Great, so I started the app, and right away you can see our selector fragment was inflated. You can tell because main activity doesn't have any buttons, it doesn't have anything in it, but if you were to look at our fragment selector, we have all this kind of layout stuff in here, and you can see that that was what was inflated. So that's working. That's great. We've successfully inflated our first fragment. Now we need to label the toolbar. So currently we have nothing in the toolbar. It's not displaying the fragment name, so that's what we want to work on next. And you might be tempted to set the toolbar inside each individual fragment, but that's not the case, because the toolbar actually only exists in one place. It exists in activity main. The fragments exist in the containers. So actually what we can do is set the toolbar from main activity main. or sorry, from main activity. So start by creating a log. I just typed log t right there. And now we're going to get our toolbar widget. So private toolbar mToolbar. We want to get the support v7 widget for the same reason as we got the support library for the fragments. So then just say mToolbar equals find view by id r.id.toolbar. There's our toolbar. I can close this actually. And so what we want to do is when the fragment is inflated, we want to tell main activity which fragment is inflated and then set the toolbar accordingly. So to do that, basically we need to send a message from the fragment to main activity. So this is going to be called fragment to activity communication. And to do that, or the kind of best practice way to do that, is to create an interface. And I just realized that I made a mistake, so before we move forward I want to correct that. We don't want a toolbar widget, we actually want the text view that's inside the toolbar. So I'm going to go mToolbar title is what we want to call this. And this is going to be toolbar title. Because if we look in activity main, this is the text that we want to set, this text view right here, which is called toolbar title. Okay, so we're good. So anyway, using an interface, we're going to use an interface for that. So go and create a new Java class in the main package directory and change this to interface, and we're going to call the interface iMainActivity because it's going to be an interface that we implement in main activity. And to start off, we only need one method, and that method is going to be for setting the toolbar. So go void set toolbar title, and we want to take a string of the fragment tag. So that's good. That's our interface. Simple, very easy. Then so then in the selector fragment, when it's first inflated, we want to use the interface and send the message to main activity. But instead of calling the method inside onCreateView, we're going to call the method in onCreate. So press Ctrl O and just type onCreate. If you didn't know, fragments, yes, they do have an onCreate method also. So why are we using onCreate? Why not just put it in onCreateView? We're using onCreate because onCreate will actually be called before onCreateView in the fragment lifecycle. So it'll set the toolbar before the rest of the fragment is inflated. In this case, it's not totally necessary, but I just wanted to make you aware that onCreate is called before onCreateView, so you can get variables kind of before the view is inflated if you want to do that. Alright, let's create our iMainActivity interface. So iMainActivity, iMainActivity, and now go below onCreateView, press Ctrl O, type onAttach, and we want to instantiate our iMainActivity interface. So iMainActivity equals iMainActivity, and then type getActivity to get the context. You always want to instantiate your interfaces in onAttach because it's called even before onCreate in the fragment lifecycle. So make sure to do that. Now inside onCreate, let's set the toolbar. So we can go iMainActivity, and then set toolbar title. And in this case, we just need to get the fragment tag. So get tag. Now keep in mind that this is going to return null if you didn't add a tag when you did the fragment transaction. So if we go to main activity and we look at our fragment transaction, which is right here, the replace method, we're passing a tag represented by this fragment selector tag right here. So if I didn't pass anything right here, then this would return null and your app would crash. So just keep that in mind that you need to pass a tag when you replace the fragment. Okay, so that's good. We have it, we're using our interface, but right now the interface doesn't know where it's sending this to. And that's because main activity isn't currently implementing it. So we have to go up to main activity and write implements iMainActivity, and now you can see it's giving me an error. It's saying there's methods in the interface that you haven't declared. So we can click the red light bulb, go to implement methods, and you can see there's our set toolbar title method. And now it gets imported as an override method. So this method right here is now in main activity. This is where it's going to be received. So by writing iMainActivity set toolbar title in selector fragment, now main activity is going to receive that tag right here. So in here, all we want to do is actually set our toolbar text. So we can go set text, set, not text color, we want to set the text to the fragment tag. And that's it. So we could run this and give this a try at this point and see if our toolbar heading is being set. And there we go. We can see that Fragment Selector is being displayed in the toolbar, it's getting a signal sent from the selector fragment class right here and being received in main activity by the set toolbar title through the interface. So that's great. That is what's known as fragment to activity communication through an interface. Now we're ready to start inflating the rest of our fragments. So go back into selector fragment and let's start writing everything else we need. So we need to attach the buttons to listeners and do all that kind of stuff, get the message input, all that stuff. So I'll write a heading here. It says bars, and then above that we'll do widgets. I don't need that much, that much space. So we need a couple buttons to start. So private button fragment A, button fragment B, button fragment C, and then private edit text. We need to get the input from the message, so M message. Now go back into our onCreateView method here, and we're going to attach everything to the ID. So message equals view.findViewById, r.id. Did I not add that? Oh yeah, I did. There we go. And button, so button fragment A equals view findViewById, r.id. Button fragment A, and then I'm going to just copy this line and we're going to paste it 2 more times. Change this to a B, change this to a C, that to a B, that to a C, and there we go. We also want to implement the Onclick listener interface. So implements view.onClick listener. That's going to make it easier for us to handle all the click events. So implement methods, get that onClick method. Right now there's nothing in it. I'm just going to cut it and paste it right there. Now we need to set onClick listeners for all the buttons. So button fragment A dot set onClick listener this, and then button fragment B set onClick listener this, and button fragment C set onClick listener this. So what this is doing is it's setting an onClick listener to these buttons, and it's telling the interface where we're going to intercept the clicks. So you can see that I'm implementing the Unclick listener interface. That's what this is referring to. So you can see if I was to remove that, this gives an error because it doesn't know what it's referencing. But if I put that in, it knows, okay, you're referencing the interface. And then in here is where the clicks will be intercepted. So we can write a switch statement and figure out which was clicked, basically. So we can go view.getID, and then we can write a switch to determine which one was clicked. So the first case is r.id.buttonFragmentA, and we want to add a break, and then I'm just going to copy that and paste that 2 more times. Change this to fragment B and fragment C. So these are going to be, this is going to get triggered if fragment A is, or the button A is clicked right here, or button B, or button C. This is a nice organized way to handle all of your click events in either an activity or in a fragment. So what we want to do when these buttons are clicked is actually inflate the respective fragment. So currently we don't have any other fragments, so we need to make those classes. We'll start by making the layouts. So right click on layout, go to new layout resource, and the first one we'll make is fragment A with a lowercase, and change this to a relative layout. There we go. I didn't change it to relative layout for any particular reason. I just kind of prefer relative layouts. And because there's going to be no toolbar or anything in this layout, like activity main, we had to use a coordinator layout in order to use toolbars. In here we don't need anything like that, so I'm just going to use a relative layout. And the only thing we're going to actually put in here is a text view to display any messages that are sent to this fragment. So I'm going to give an ID of incoming message, and we'll set a text color of black and a text size of 16 SP, and we're going to do center and parent equals true. So relative layouts allow you to center in the parent. If this was a linear layout, I wouldn't be able to use this attribute. So that's all we want to do for this layout. Now let's create the fragment class that's going to be associated with this layout. So right click on the main package directory, and we're going to call this a fragment. Notice the naming convention I'm using here. The layouts start with what type of layout they are. So activity or main activity is an activity, so its layout is activity main. These are fragments, so they start with fragment. but then the classes are opposite. So you have fragment A fragment, main activity, activity main. It's the same sort of backwards naming convention. So once again, we're going to extend the v4 fragment class, and we're going to press Control O and insert on create view. View equals inflator dot inflate r dot layout fragment A container false, and then return that view. And let's get a tag, although I don't know if we're actually going to write any logs. In case you don't know what I typed there, I'm just typing log t, and you can see that the log tag is being imported. We're also going to need onCreate, not right away, but let's get it anyway. So press Control O, get that onCreate method. I'm just going to put it in here. We're not going to use it right away, but I just want it in here because we are going to use it later. Now, because the fragments we're creating are going to be pretty much the same, like fragment A is pretty much the same as B, which is the same as C, I'm going to actually completely write a fragment and then go back and make fragment B and fragment C. That way it'll make it easy because we can do a lot of copy pasting. So, okay, so let's start off, and actually we are going to start in the onCreate method after we get our iMainActivity interface. So do a little heading that says vars, and we're going to create the iMainActivity interface, so iMainActivity, and once again we're going to press Control O down here and get on attach, and then just do iMainActivity, iMainActivity equals main-activity, and then get activity for the context. And then inside of our onCreate method, we're going to once again set that toolbar title. So just do get tag. That's great. So what's next? Well, we only have one widget for this ID, or for this class, so let's go widgets and go up and do private text view. This is going to be called mDisplayMessage. This is going to be the text view. Let's see if I have it open. The text view that's displayed. So if I type a message in here, go to fragment A, that's this text view right here that's being displayed. Now let's attach it to its ID. So mDisplayMessage equals view, find view by ID, r.id.incoming message. So how are we going to get this incoming message? We're going to also get that in our onCreate method. So we're going to get it from a bundle, an incoming bundle. So bundle equals this.getArguments to get the arguments of the incoming bundle. Then if bundle does not equal null, we know we have something coming in. So in our case, it's only going to be an incoming message. So we need to create another variable, incoming message equals blank string, then incoming message equals bundle.getString, and I've already included a key to this. So this is going to be intent message in our strings.xml file. This is the key that's going to identify the value that's in the bundle. So here's where we get our incoming message. So now what are we going to do with our incoming message? We need another method to handle that. So private void set incoming message, and we can just say if not incoming message dot equals blank. So if it's not empty, which is the case if it was not retrieved from the bundle, then we can just set it to the text view. So mDisplayMessage set text to incoming message, and we can just call this in onCreate, and we know this is going to be okay because onCreate is called before onCreate view. So if there's a message, it will be retrieved first, then onCreate view will be called, and set incoming message will then set the message. So that's it for this class. It's relatively straightforward, and all the other fragments are going to be very similar. So now let's go into main activity, and we need to figure out how we're going to actually inflate this fragment. Or sorry, no, let's go into selector fragment. So if the user clicks on the button labeled fragment A, we need to first check if they've typed a message in this box. If they have, we need to get it, and then we need to inflate the new fragment and send that message. So now we need to get the message from the text view is what's next. So write string message equals message.getText.toString. That will get the message if, whoops, I don't want to put it there. I want to put this up here. So if there is a message, that will retrieve it. And now we need to create a bundle, attach the message, and inflate the fragment. And what we're going to use that for is the iMainActivity interface once again. Because if you recall from the Android documentation, it says often you'll want a fragment to communicate with another. For example, to change the content based on a user view. All fragment-to-fragment communication is done through the associated activity. Two fragments should never communicate directly. So what that means is we need to use an interface to tell main-activity to inflate a new fragment and then send the information from main-activity. We should not inflate the fragment from selector fragment. So that's what we'll do. We'll create a new interface method to do that. So we'll go void inflate fragment, and we want to pass the fragment tag so we know which fragment to inflate, and then pass the message that we're going to be sending to that fragment. Now go into main activity, and it's going to be telling you there's a problem, and that's true because we need to implement that new interface method. So we're going to have three cases here because we're going to have three fragments by the end of this video. We're going to have one for fragment A, one for fragment B, and one for C. So in here we need to first determine which one we're going to be using. So if fragment tag dot equals get string r.string dot fragment A, then we know that's that case. So that's case one. Else, if we need to do fragment B, and then one more case we have for fragment C. Those are going to be our three cases. So if in fact we haven't built A or B and C yet, so we're going to leave those for now, but we definitely can inflate fragment A. So if it is fragment A, we go a fragment equals new fragment, A equals new a fragment, and then we don't want to do the fragment transaction and pass the new fragment, pass the fragment tag, and we do want to add this one to the backstack. Remember, because we need to be able to navigate backwards when we click on these fragments, and then we want to pass also our message, and it's that easy. So now, because we've made these convenience classes, everything is very simple, but we do need to add a few things to the do fragment transaction, because currently we're passing in a message, but it's not actually doing anything with that message. Oops, sorry, this message right here. So we're going to need to create a bundle and add that to our fragment transaction. So go up here, and I'm going to go if message does not equal empty, then we know we have a message and we need to send it. So go bundle equals new bundle, and then bundle.put string, and our key is get string r.string.intent message, remember, then pass the message, and then do fragment.set arguments to the bundle. And it's that simple. Now also too, when we do the other fragment transactions, it's going to be very simple. All I'm going to have to do is instantiate the new fragment, write do fragment transaction, and that's it. So everything should be pretty smooth sailing from here on out. We've done most of the hard work. So I'm just going to go into fragment A here and just kind of double check things. I'm pretty sure we're good. So now in the selector fragment, oh no, this is what we need to do still. So we need to actually call our interface method. So main activity, inflate the new fragment. The tag is going to be get tag, and then we want to pass our message. So that's it. Now when they click on the button, this will be triggered. iMainActivity interface will call inflate fragment. In main activity, it will capture that, and then this method will run. It'll say, okay, looks like I have fragment A. Now I'm going to inflate fragment A. That is kind of the process. Fragment A will be inflated, onCreate will be called, the toolbar will be set, it'll get the arguments from the bundle, that includes the message if there is one, and then onCreate view will be called, and set incoming message will then set that message to the text view. So let's run it and see if our fragment A is working correctly. Alright, let's type a message and click fragment A. Looks like we have a problem. Fragment A is not being inflated. Let's go into selector fragment, and yeah, right here. So up here we're allowed to use get tag because it knows which fragment you're referencing, but inside here you're inside of an Unclick interface, so get tag is not returning anything. So we need to actually reference the string for the fragment tag. So r.string.fragment A is the one we want here. Now let's try that again. Okay, let's type a message, say hello, click fragment A, And there we go. We are definitely being redirected to fragment A. You can see that it's being set in the toolbar, but there is another problem. It looks like the message either isn't being displayed or there's an issue with that. Yep. So this is white. That's a white color. So the text actually is being sent, but it was being set to a color of white, which is obviously not going to be visible. So let's try running that again and taking a look. Okay, type a message, click fragment A. There we go. So our toolbar is being set, our message is being displayed, everything is working exactly what as we expect. So now we just need to do the same thing for fragment B and fragment C. So let's create those classes. So I'm just going to click on fragment A here and copy it, go to layout, and I'm just going to change this to fragment B, and everything is going to be the same here. I don't want to change anything. I'm going to copy that one more time and then change this to fragment C. And we can close B, close C, we can actually close A also. Now I'm going to go up here and copy fragment A. I'm going to paste that in here. I'm going to call this B fragment. Change the log, change this to say B, and everything else is going to be identical. All we want to do is inflate a different layout, but the processes in these fragments are going to be exactly the same. I just want to demonstrate what it's like to communicate with different fragments and inflate different fragments. So I'm copying fragment B, I'm pasting it into the main package directory, changing this to a C. Now I'm going to change this to inflate fragment C, and that's it. So now everything should, well, whoops, actually we need to handle the Unclick Events right here. So we can write the different cases. So I'm going to copy this interface, paste it in, just going to change this to a B. Whoops. Copy that, paste that, change that to a C, and then we need to go to main activity and write just these 2 lines for each one of these. So this is going to be B, and this is going to be C. And that's it. That's all we need to do. And now these different fragments will be inflated. Let's click the play button and take a look. Okay, let's type hello from selector, and we'll go to fragment A. You can see the message is being displayed, and fragment A is in the toolbar. Now let's do, I don't know, let's do a different message. I'm just going to say hello, or sure, hey, and go to fragment B. We see our new message. Also, the fragment title of B is being displayed. And one more time. So one more time. And we'll click on C, and we can see one more time, and also the fragment title. So this is a pretty good demonstration, I think, of fragment to fragment communication, fragment to activity communication, and using an interface to facilitate all that. Basically, we have a selector fragment that's being inflated right in kind of the main screen right here, and then there's Onclick Events handling each one of those Onclick events is being done right here. When the buttons are clicked, when the individual buttons are clicked, the interface method inflate view fragment is being called from the iMainActivity interface, which is being implemented in main activity down here. So if it's clicked, this method is called, which then inflates our new fragment. The new fragment will have a bundle attached to it if there's a message, and it won't if there isn't. Then the fragment will be added to the backstack, and the new one will be inflated. Inside each of the individual fragments, it retrieves the incoming message from the bundle and then sets it with the set incoming message method right here. It's also making use of the iMainActivity interface to set the toolbar title, because remember, the toolbar is actually in activity main. The toolbar isn't actually in the fragment. And whoops, I actually just noticed something. That's not correct. So you can see we've navigated back to the selector fragment, and this toolbar title didn't get reset to what it should be. So I finished my summary anyway, so let's just fix that. So in main activity, we can override on back pressed. So press Control O, go on back pressed, and then we just want to set the toolbar title to this one. So M toolbar title, we can do set text to the get string r.string dot fragment selector, because the only fragment that's going to be inflated when we press the back button is fragment selector. So that will solve that problem. If the user presses the back button, fragment selector will get set to the toolbar. So that's it. that is the tutorial. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully you now see how to properly communicate between fragments, how to properly send data to fragments from other fragments, how to send data from an activity, how to communicate with an activity, how to inflate fragments, all that good stuff. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I just made a new course for Pluralsight.com. It's called Implementing Effective Navigation. And what we do in the course is teach you how to implement effective navigation. So it's a dating app where you can click on a user, either like them or not like them. If you like them, you can go to this middle section right here. They'll show up in your liked section. So if I was to like another user, go back to the middle, refresh that, you can see that now they're showing up in there. I can click on their profile, view them, press back, go to messages. If I click on them, I can say, hey, the message is posted to, it's not using an actual database, so the messages aren't being saved, but it's just to kind of demonstrate how you would do something like this. How to use a navigation drawer. So I can click on the user agreement. That's just gibberish. We can click on settings or change some profile settings. I can change my name to, I don't know, Rick. Press save, that will save. I can change some of these preferences. I can change my profile picture via the camera or selecting something from memory. Of course, this handles how to set up tabs also. Lots of good stuff. Basically everything you need to know about proper navigation with an Android app. And like I said, this course is going to be available on Pluralsight. There's going to be if you don't want to pay for Pluralsight, it costs $29 a month, which is an unbelievable deal in my opinion. They have thousands of courses. If you don't want to pay for it, there's going to be a trial link in the description, so make sure to click that and you can get 10 days free. And to find the course, there'll be a link to the course also, but you can just go Implementing Effective Navigation. And you can see there's my course right there, Android Fundamentals, Implementing Effective Navigation. So once you have a membership on Pluralsight, you can watch that, and I'll teach you how to implement all the features that I just mentioned right there. Hopefully this was helpful, and as always, thanks for watching.